The mist hung low over Lake Michigan that September morning, transforming the shoreline into something mysterious and ancient. Adam Peterson and Mike Collins never expected their regular fishing trip to turn into a life-changing encounter. The gentle lapping of waves against their small boat suddenly gave way to something far more urgent. A desperate splashing sound pierced through the morning fog, followed by what they first thought was a log but turned out to be something much more dangerous. Something massive and dark was struggling in the water, fighting for its life. The two men squinted through the fog, their fishing rods forgotten. What they saw made their blood run cold. Not more than 50 feet from their boat, a massive black bear was thrashing in the water, its powerful limbs churning desperately against the current. Its dark eyes, filled with panic, locked onto their boat. In that moment, both men knew they faced a decision that would challenge everything they thought they knew about survival and the unwritten laws of nature. The bear's massive head barely stayed above the water as waves crashed over it. Each surge pushed it further from shore into deeper waters, where even its powerful muscles would eventually fail. Time was running out. The creature's eyes held something that struck deep into the men's souls. It wasn't just fear they saw reflected in those eyes. It was a plea for help that transcended the natural barriers between predator and prey. Adam gripped the boat's steering wheel, his knuckles white. Mike stood frozen, his morning coffee forgotten in his trembling hands. They had mere moments to decide. Adam Peterson and Mike Collins were not your typical weekend warriors who ventured into nature for social media photos. Both men had spent their entire lives in northern Michigan, where the wilderness was not just a playground but a way of life. Adam, a 45-year-old former forest ranger turned wildlife photographer, had dedicated his life to capturing the raw beauty of nature through his lens. His weathered face and calloused hands told stories of countless encounters with wildlife, though none quite like this. Mike, younger at 38, worked as a local veterinarian specializing in large animals. His practice often brought him face to face with scared and injured creatures, but they were usually domesticated ones. The farms and stables of northern Michigan had been his workplace for over a decade, teaching him that animals, when desperate, were unpredictable and dangerous. Their friendship had formed 15 years ago during a search and rescue operation for a lost hiker. Since then, they had spent countless mornings on Lake Michigan, their small fishing boat becoming a sanctuary where they could escape the complexities of modern life. Both men understood and respected the delicate balance of nature. They had witnessed its beauty and its brutality, from the magnificent sight of migrating geese to the harsh reality of predator and prey. But now, faced with a drowning bear, their experience seemed inadequate. Their minds raced with conflicting thoughts. They knew the golden rule of wildlife encounters: never interfere with nature's course. Yet their instincts to help, deeply ingrained in both their professional and personal lives, pulled at them strongly. Fear coursed through their veins, not just of the bear itself but of the consequences of whatever choice they made. A bear this size could easily crush their boat, drag them into the water, or turn on them even after a rescue attempt. They had seen firsthand the power of these creatures, how their massive paws could shatter logs and their jaws could bend metal. The morning's peaceful silence now felt heavy with the weight of their decision. The situation deteriorated rapidly as the bear struggled against the increasingly rough waters. Its massive body, usually an advantage in the wilderness, now worked against it. The thick fur, soaked with cold lake water, pulled the creature down like a heavy coat. Each desperate attempt to stay afloat drained more of its strength. The bear's breathing became labored, creating small clouds of vapor in the chilly morning air. Its powerful muscles, visible even through the fur, trembled with exhaustion. Adam and Mike quickly assessed the situation, drawing from their years of experience. The bear had likely been trying to cross the lake at its narrowest point, a common behavior they had observed in other wildlife. But something had gone wrong. Perhaps it had underestimated the distance, or the current had proven stronger than expected. Now it found itself trapped in a deadly situation nearly half a mile from either shore. The waves grew larger as the morning wind picked up, making the bear's situation even more precarious. Each swell now threatened to push its head underwater. The creature's movements became more frantic, its powerful limbs striking the water with diminishing force. The look in its eyes changed from panic to exhaustion, a sight that struck both men to their core. Mike grabbed a life preserver from the boat's storage compartment, his hands shaking slightly as he held it. The bright orange ring seemed almost absurd in this situation. How would they even get it to the bear? And if they did, would the animal understand its purpose or simply attack it in panic? The bear was easily 600 pounds of muscle and claw, capable of tearing through their small fishing boat like paper. Adam carefully maneuvered the boat closer, maintaining a cautious distance while trying to create a barrier between the bear and the deeper waters. The engine's low rumble seemed to catch the bear's attention. Its eyes locked onto them again, but this time with a different expression. The initial panic had given way to something else: exhaustion, recognition. They couldn't be sure. Their first rescue attempt came from pure instinct. Mike threw the life preserver, aiming for it to land near the bear's massive head. The orange ring splashed down just feet from the struggling animal, but the bear recoiled from it, using precious energy to swim away from what it perceived as a new threat. The movement cost it dearly. Its head dipped below the surface for several terrifying seconds before it resurfaced, gasping and thrashing. Adam cut the engine, letting the boat drift closer. The silence that followed seemed to calm the bear somewhat. They could now see it clearly, its black fur glistened in the early morning light, water streaming from its massive shoulders with each labored movement. The creature's muscles rippled beneath its coat as it fought to keep its head above water, but its movements were becoming increasingly uncoordinated. Time was running out. The bear's struggles grew weaker with each passing moment. Its eyes, now heavy-lidded with exhaustion, still held that haunting look of desperate intelligence. Both men knew they had to act fast, but their next move would have to be different. The conventional approach had failed. Now they needed to think beyond their training, beyond their experience, beyond everything they thought they knew about wildlife encounters. The next minutes unfolded like a carefully choreographed dance between life and death. Adam and Mike knew they had to act unconventionally. Their usual protocols were useless in this extraordinary situation. With deliberate movements, Adam positioned their boat parallel to the struggling bear, close enough to help but far enough to maintain some safety. The distance between them and certain death was merely 15 feet of choppy water. Mike quickly uncoiled the heavy-duty tow rope they used for hauling in large catches. His mind raced through calculations. The rope could support the weight of a large boat. It would have to be enough for a bear. They had only one chance to get this right. The bear's movements had become sluggish. Its massive head barely stayed above water. Its eyes, once fierce with panic, now showed the glassy look of approaching unconsciousness. Adam cut the engine completely, hoping the silence would keep the bear calm. The boat drifted naturally toward the struggling animal, guided only by the wind and waves. Mike fashioned a crude lasso from the rope, his hands steady despite the fear coursing through his body. Years of treating injured horses had taught him that sometimes the most dangerous moments required the steadiest hands. Their first real attempt at rescue nearly ended in disaster. As Mike threw the rope, aiming for the bear's shoulders, a sudden wave lifted their boat. The rope fell short, splashing uselessly into the water. The sound startled the bear, causing it to thrash violently. Water sprayed everywhere as its massive paws churned the lake's surface. The boat rocked dangerously, nearly capsizing from the waves created by the bear's panic. Precious minutes ticked by as they reeled in the rope for another attempt. The bear's struggles grew weaker. Its breaths came in ragged gasps, creating small ripples on the water's surface. Mike's arms burned as he coiled the heavy, wet rope. Every second felt like an eternity. Adam kept his eyes fixed on the bear, watching its movements for any sign of aggression or surrender. Their second attempt proved more successful but brought its own challenges. The rope landed perfectly, settling around the bear's shoulders. For a moment, hope surged through both men. Then, in a last burst of panicked energy, the bear began to twist and turn. The rope started slipping. Mike lunged forward, grabbing the rope with both hands. The rough fiber bit into his palms as he held on, blood mixing with lake water. Adam quickly moved to help, but the distribution of weight threatened to tip their boat. The bear's massive body acted like an anchor, pulling them toward danger. Water began spilling over the boat's edge. Both men knew they were one wrong move away from joining the bear in the frigid lake. Their muscles screamed in protest as they fought against the weight of the struggling animal. Slowly, agonizingly, they began to make progress. The bear's struggles weakened, whether from exhaustion or some primitive understanding that help had arrived. Inch by inch, they pulled it closer to the boat. The vessel tipped precariously with each movement. Their arms felt like lead, their backs burning with strain. Sweat mixed with spray from the lake, stinging their eyes despite the morning chill. Every pull on the rope brought new challenges. The bear's wet fur made it incredibly heavy, and its massive body threatened to overpower them with each movement. They had to coordinate their efforts perfectly, pulling in sync to maintain the boat's stability. One wrong move, one slip of the rope, and all would be lost. Their breathing became labored, matching the bear's desperate gasps. After what seemed like hours, but was probably only minutes, they managed to get the bear alongside their boat. Its massive body rose and fell with each wave, first slick against the vessel's side. Up close, they could see just how enormous it truly was. Its paw alone was bigger than a dinner plate, armed with claws that could easily tear through flesh and bone. Yet those weapons of nature now hung limply in the water, all fight gone from the exhausted animal. The critical moment arrived. The bear lay alongside their boat, its massive body heaving with exhaustion. The shore remained a distant haven, too far for them to tow such a massive creature. The bear's eyes, now barely open, held a glimmer of fading life. Adam and Mike exchanged glances, knowing they had reached the point of no return. They needed to get the bear onto their boat, or all their efforts would end in tragedy. Their vessel, a 20-foot fishing boat, had a low side rail perfect for hauling in large catches, but this was no fish. This was a 600-pound apex predator. Even in its weakened state, one swipe of its paw could prove fatal. The boat rocked dangerously as waves crashed against its side, threatening to roll them all into the depths of Lake Michigan. Mike tightened his grip on the rope, his bleeding hands protesting every movement. Adam positioned himself at the bear's head, knowing these next few seconds would determine life or death for all of them. The bear's breathing had become shallow, its massive chest barely rising. They had to act now. Adam reached down and grabbed the thick fur of the bear's neck, an action that went against every survival instinct he possessed. Mike synchronized his movements with Adam's, using the rope as leverage. The bear's weight threatened to pull them overboard as they heaved upward. Water cascaded from its fur as its massive form slowly rose from the lake. For one terrifying moment, the boat tilted sharply to one side. Water rushed over the rail, flooding around their feet. The bear's body was halfway in, its weight threatening to capsize them completely. Adam felt his grip slipping on the wet fur. Mike's face contorted with effort, his muscles trembling as he held the rope. Then something extraordinary happened. The bear, in what seemed like a moment of understanding, made one final effort. Its powerful muscles tensed, and it lunged forward with its remaining strength. The movement, combined with the men's pulling, brought its entire body crashing onto the boat's deck. Time seemed to freeze. The bear lay motionless on their boat, water pooling beneath its massive form. Adam and Mike stood pressed against the opposite rail, their hearts pounding. They were now trapped on a small boat with one of nature's most dangerous predators. The bear's chest rose and fell with labored breaths, its eyes closed with exhaustion. The first few moments after getting the bear aboard felt like balancing on a knife's edge. Water sloshed around their feet as the boat stabilized, creating small waves that lapped against the bear's sodden fur. Neither man dared to move. Their muscles remained tense, ready to jump overboard if the massive predator suddenly sprang to life. But the bear remained still, its chest heaving with exhaustion, eyes closed in what appeared to be complete surrender. Minutes passed in tense silence. The morning fog began to lift, revealing the enormity of their situation. The bear filled most of their deck space, leaving them pressed against the far rail. Its wet fur glistened in the strengthening sunlight, revealing battle scars and the marks of a long life in the wilderness. Up close, they could see it was an older male, its muzzle showing traces of gray. Gradually, the bear's breathing steadied. Adam and Mike exchanged glances, their own hearts still racing from the rescue. Their hands trembled from a mixture of adrenaline and physical exhaustion. Mike's palms still bled from the rope burns, leaving crimson streaks on the white rail where he gripped it for support. Then came the moment they had been dreading. The bear's eyes slowly opened. Both men held their breath, preparing for the worst. But what they saw in those eyes defied everything they knew about wild animals. Instead of panic or aggression, they saw something that looked remarkably like awareness. The bear lifted its massive head slightly, its gaze moving between the two men who had saved its life. What happened next would stay with them forever. The bear made no attempt to rise. Instead, it let out a long, soft exhale that seemed to carry all its remaining tension away. Its massive body relaxed completely, as if accepting its current situation and the presence of its unlikely saviors. The natural order of predator and prey had been suspended in this extraordinary moment. Fear began to give way to a complex mixture of emotions in both men. Relief flooded through them as they realized they might survive this encounter. Amazement at their own actions mingled with a deep sense of connection to this powerful creature that now lay vulnerable before them. They had done something most would consider impossible or foolish. Yet here they were, sharing their small boat with one of nature's most feared predators. As the morning sun climbed higher, the bear began to show signs of recovery. The natural order of things suggested this would be the moment of greatest danger when a restored predator would assert its dominance. Yet, what unfolded on that small fishing boat challenged everything these experienced outdoorsmen thought they knew about wild animals. The bear made no aggressive moves. Instead, it began to lick its paws clean, wiping away the lake water with slow, deliberate movements. Its eyes, now clear and alert, would occasionally glance at the men without any sign of hostility. The creature seemed to understand, on some profound level, that these humans had chosen to help rather than harm. Adam slowly reached for a water bottle in their cooler, his movements careful and measured. The bear watched but showed no signs of agitation. In a moment that seemed to defy the laws of nature, Adam cautiously extended the bottle, letting water trickle near the bear's muzzle. The massive animal leaned forward slightly, lapping at the fresh water. This simple act of accepting help from a human went against every natural instinct a wild bear should possess. Time passed strangely on the boat as they began their slow journey toward shore. Mike steered while Adam remained near their unusual passenger, maintaining a respectful distance but close enough to observe. The bear's behavior continued to amaze them. When waves rocked the boat, it adjusted its weight to maintain balance, as if understanding the precarious nature of their shared situation. Most surprisingly, the bear appeared to recognize their voices. As they spoke quietly to each other about navigation and wind direction, its ears would twitch in response, showing awareness but no fear. This was unprecedented. Wild bears typically react to human voices with either aggression or retreat. This one seemed to find their presence reassuring, a complete reversal of natural order. Even more remarkable was the moment when Adam sneezed suddenly, startling everyone on board. Instead of reacting with panic or aggression, the bear merely lifted its head, looked at him with what could only be described as mild curiosity, then returned to its peaceful rest. This level of tolerance and trust from a wild predator was something neither man had ever witnessed, or even heard of in their decades of wildlife experience. As they neared the shore, a deeper understanding began to form. This was not just a simple rescue anymore. They had witnessed something extraordinary, a moment when the barriers between humans and wild animals had temporarily dissolved. The bear's behavior suggested a level of intelligence and emotional capacity that went beyond mere survival instinct. The experience of that morning on Lake Michigan left an indelible mark on both Adam and Mike. What started as a simple rescue transformed into something that would reshape their understanding of the natural world. Their perspective on wildlife, particularly regarding the emotional capacity of wild animals, underwent a profound shift. The barrier between human and animal had blurred in ways they never thought possible. The bear's behavior in those crucial hours changed them forever. Its display of trust and intelligence challenged everything they had learned about wild predators. Adam found himself approaching his wildlife photography differently, spending more time observing and connecting with his subjects rather than just capturing images. Mike's veterinary practice took on new dimensions as he began to look beyond the physical symptoms of his animal patients, paying closer attention to their emotional states. The local community initially met their story with skepticism. But as word spread, backed by Adam's photographs taken after they reached shore, their experience became a catalyst for change. Local wildlife conservation efforts saw increased support. People began sharing their own stories of unexpected encounters with wildlife, creating a deeper appreciation for the cognitive and emotional complexity of the animals they shared their wilderness with. The bear itself was safely guided back to the forest once they reached shore. In the months that followed, local rangers reported unusual behavior from a large male bear in the area. It showed no aggression toward humans, maintaining a respectful distance while displaying an unusual level of calm during chance encounters. Though they couldn't be certain it was the same bear, these reports suggested a lasting impact from that morning's events. The events of that foggy September morning on Lake Michigan became more than just a story of rescue. They evolved into a testament to the mysterious and profound connections possible between humans and wildlife. Adam and Mike had not just saved a bear's life. They had uncovered something extraordinary about the capacity for trust and understanding between species. Years later, both men still returned to that spot on the lake, their fishing trips now carrying deeper meaning. The memory of those intelligent eyes, the trust shown by a wild predator, and the moments of connection continued to influence their lives. Their experience rippled through the community, inspiring a gentler approach to wildlife encounters and fostering a deeper respect for the emotional lives of wild animals. The bear's survival challenged assumptions about the boundaries between humans and wildlife. It revealed that in moments of crisis, ancient barriers can dissolve, leaving space for something remarkable to emerge. Perhaps most importantly, it showed that compassion, even in the most unlikely circumstances, can bridge gaps we once thought impossible to cross. Some mornings, when the mist rolls over Lake Michigan, locals swear they can still see a large bear watching the water from the shoreline, as if remembering its own brush with fate and the humans who chose to help rather than turn away. If this incredible story touched your heart, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more extraordinary tales of human-animal connections. Click the bell icon to never miss our weekly uploads of remarkable wildlife encounters and rescue stories.